Hey, composing gloves here, and today we are going to talk about half diminished 7 chords, which sound scarier than the diminished 7 chords, but they're actually not. They're, in my opinion, simpler because they don't have 2 diminished on top of each other. Half diminished, oh my gosh, half diminished is just easier, in my opinion. They give you different properties too. So we have all these things because they give you more and more options. So I'm just laying it on you, man. I'm just going to assume you know you've mastered the previous material because that's why it's there. So let's make a major chord first. So C major, easy peasy, lemon squeezy. This is like cake compared to the stuff we're about to do. So now let's make it a diminished chord. So now it's the C diminished. So how do you make a half diminished chord? Well, in our full diminished chord, or just C diminished 7 specifically, we had, I need to burp. I don't know why. Excuse me. I just drank some water. That must be why. So in our C diminished, we double flatted our 7. Well, in this one, we just have a single flat. It's like the dominant. So normally B is our 7. We just lowered a half step. Because this is not diminished and this our bass chord is, it's considered half diminished. Now, you could look at this. I've never done an in-depth study on this. I'm sure I'd recognize even more patterns and stuff though. You could see this as a bunch of minor thirds stacked with a, what is this? A major third? It is, oh, I'm playing down an octave, whatever. It's a major third. So you could look at it like that. You could look at all these thirds and say, oh, look at all these thirds and look at how they combine and stuff. I choose to look at it from chord structures because it's just easier to see like, oh, it's a diminished chord plus a minor 7th. And the way I see it, so okay, so that's how you make it. Let's make one more just to be clear. So let's make it D diminished. So D, and then normally it's an F. It's a minor third. We need another minor third for a diminished. So F to A flat. And then the 7 is usually C sharp and D major. Now it's just going to be C. And so this is a minor 7 plus a diminished chord. So this is a half diminished chord. If we wanted a full diminished chord, we would lower this one more half step. Now it's full diminished. And you can move between these properties. But as you saw, these introduce different chords. So let's really quick talk about the chords that are inside this sucker. And that's sort of the meat on our options on what we have available. Hopefully you're seeing like you could create some really gorgeous chord progressions with just the knowledge of these tools. So we have C diminished, but look at this. We have E flat minor. Now, I know some of you probably look at this, you Midi trained people. If you've really learned this all via Midi, I'm like impressed out my socks right now. Like, wow. But I see this as a E flat major. Or D sharp major. Oh, I could see that, but yeah. D sharp, because of, if you're moving in C sharp minor or C sharp major, that would make sense, I guess. But I guess it's a thing. D sharp major. You can see it as E flat minor, which is the way I see it. E flat minor. Why did I say D flat major? D flat minor. This is a minor chord. Okay. So we have minor, and what does this mean? So we have a minor now on top and a diminished down on bottom. So you see, it's just another option. Now we've got minor on top and diminished on bottom. So we could pull out our trick. I said this in the written music video. So I guess I'll pull it out here. There's two sort of base ways you could do this, but there's really a million other options you have available to yourself. I'm just going to point out 2 of them. So diminished chords will quite nicely pull to their major counterpart. So we could go C major. So we could do C half diminished, then we go to C dominant because it'll pull to the major, this will, and we can leave this right where it's at. And then from here, this pulls to F because it's the perfect 4th. We talked about this in the dominant 7 video. So we do something like this. Now this is happening very fast. You can be a lot more secretive about it, but that's one option. We have another option. We talked about how we can add a major third underneath. And if we add this in, we can take a notice here. So we could add this in. What is this? So we have this diminished thing. That's sort of deceptive. What we could do is we could take this. We could take these notes. So we have E flat minor. And what's the perfect 4th? Oh yeah, A flat. Or the key shift move for the diminished chord. So you could do a key shift move and pull a really funky move, and you could jump to any number of chords here. It'd sound quite nice. We could jump to the 4th, 5th of the key. Yeah, you could jump to the major of the key and then pull a key shift. You could stay in the key and just simply use it as a passing tone. We haven't talked about passing tones. I don't think I'll cover it maybe one day after basic progressions. But this is actually, I'm getting into really advanced progressions right now. This is not simple progressions, but I want to point them out because you should know your major and minor. And when I get to basic progressions, it should truly be basic at that point. So what have we just done? Well, we've added the 4 to a minor chord. Whoa, you see the relationships? Now that doesn't sound super nice. So we could take this down and we can invert these. So we could take the F sharp down. We could create some interesting voicings and just do all sorts of interesting things. We could just choose to suspend because maybe an add isn't the best choice. It all depends on what you're doing in the piece that you have. But anyways, to just reiterate, those are just some properties that this chord carries with it. You have a diminished chord with a minor 7th relative to the bass note. I encourage you to make chord progressions, invert these things, make them cool. Subscribe, and have a blessed day.